Mike's. Graham, good afternoon. It's Friday, coming to you on another yet again unplanned time slot, but we are, and you are traveling to Indianapolis tomorrow. I am getting
God
ready.
help me.
God help us all. Like the sign said, God help us beat Alabama.
I want to believe.
Graham, you believe. I know you do. I know you do.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, man. Here we are, round 2, right? Like a month later, which makes this definitely interesting from the standpoint of what we do on this show, which is look at film and stats and trends and try and figure out how two teams are going to attack each other. The first time this went down, Georgia didn't do any of the things that we expected, which really, I think, threw both of us off a little bit because they, not to toot our own horn too much, but like for the first 12 weeks of the season, we basically laid out key plot points of every game script in terms of how Georgia was going to attack who they were playing and how that team was going to attack Georgia. And then everything got blown to shit in Atlanta.
We actually were right for 12 games and a quarter and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, we had
and the Michigan game too.
Yeah,
that played out exactly how we thought it was going to. So, yeah, man. I'm trying to figure out if like Nick Saban is just that good, or if Kirby Smart's in his head, or if Georgia was sandbagging this thing a little bit and didn't want to show everything in case they found themselves in the situation they do now a month later.
Yeah. I know you've got some plays you want to look at, and I was in the stands for the SEC championship game, and be completely honest, I did not go back and watch the broadcast until this week right now, getting ready for this game. And, there were a lot of mistakes. Georgia made a lot of mistakes. And if they can clean up, a number of those, not every single one, Alabama's got good players. They're going to get beat. Not every play was made because a Georgia player made a mistake, and but limiting those and correcting some of the obvious ones, getting pressure to Bryce Young is critical. And I think Georgia can do that. The offense didn't play as bad as one would think. They made some huge mistakes, but all in all, they actually had a higher success rate than Alabama's offense. They just didn't have the big explosive plays and that critical turnover and pick six, and also either it was a red zone interception or a interception deep in the Alabama territory. Those will kill you. They absolutely did. So, and even then, third quarter, we just needed a couple drives and we could have been back in that game. Didn't happen. Where do you want to start, Graham?
Yeah, let's get into our outline. So kind of going back and looking at Georgia Bama 1, some key things that I want to go back to. So the blueprint on tape versus Bama had been bring more than 4 rushers, bring 5 or 6 rushers, play press coverage on the outside, and force Mechie/Williams to the boundary. So, this is just a run play right here, which is fine. You can just let these play.
Right.
I look at it and it's like Georgia didn't do a lot of those things in this game the first time around. When they did those things, they had success. When they blitzed Bryce Young, 8 of 20 for 104 yards, 5.2 yards per attempt. When they did not, he was 17 of 23 for 308 and 3 touchdowns, 13.2 yards per attempt. So I think like the same analysis applies as it did when we sat here a month ago, right? Like if you sit back in loose zones and let Jamison Williams run and find holes and sit down in holes in your zone, Bryce Young will pick that apart. If you bring pressure and get him moving backwards and doing stuff like, right there, like just get him off his spot a little bit and your chances of success increase tremendously. If he has to move out of, that 5-7 step drop, wherever he lands when he's done with that drop, he's not as effective of a quarterback. And if you bring guys up the middle, he will get onto his back foot, right here, you're going to see, like that's what you got to do. Did Georgia get home there? No. Did they rush that play? Did they affect the timing? Did that pressure get into Bryce Young's head a little bit? Yeah, it did. And so I think like that's the first key point here. Obviously, I still don't know why Georgia decided to change the philosophy 13 games into the season after giving up 6.9 points per game all year, and then they went right back to the same philosophy against Michigan and had a lot of success. So, however you want to, at this point, the reasons why don't matter, but the reality is that I expect Georgia to play a better game defensively. I'm sure you saw the stat that went around this week. Georgia had 3 coverage busts of 20 plus yards this year. All 3 of them came against Alabama. So, that's one of them right there. You had another one that resulted in a touchdown. Like, you take away 1 or 2 of the giant explosive plays and you're right in this football game. I also think that Alabama sort of broke Georgia from a game state perspective by scoring 5 straight times. You got into a situation where Stetson Bennett threw 48 times. And if Georgia finds themselves down a possession or even 2 possessions in this game, they cannot get into we don't trust our defense mode. Georgia has to, Todd Monken needs to call this game like his defense is going to get stops, because if he does, I think that they will stay in it. A lot of talk about the secondary after this game. And we talked about on this show, the matchup we were most concerned about was with Chris Smith hobbled. We didn't know if he was going to play. We didn't know who was going to play that star/slot corner position. And the staff elected to go to William Poole III there. In this game, William Poole was targeted 11 times. He gave up 9 catches for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you go through the rest of the secondary, Seen 8 targets, 6 catches allowed, 80 yards, 44 yards after the catch. Not good, but not awful. Ringo targeted 6 times. He gave up 2 catches. Most of the yardage he gave up was on that one play down the sideline, the first drive of the third quarter. That was a long touchdown pass. But other than that, total in the game, he gave up 63 yards. Kendrick targeted 5 times, only gave up 3 catches, 27 yards. You'll live with that all day on the outside. Channing Tindall, when he was in coverage, 2 targets, 1 catch allowed. Same with Quay Walker, 2 targets, 2 catches allowed for 21 yards. Dan Jackson, he gave up 40 yards on 1 target for 1 reception. So if you go back and look at this game, like, I think that if Georgia fixes that slot corner position, all of a sudden you're looking at a box score where, how many yards did Bryce Young have first time around?
401 or something like that for 3.
Let's see. Yeah, first time around in this game, he throws for 421. So you knock 164 yards off of that, you're, at 360.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 260. 260. If Georgia holds them to under 300 yards passing, I would expect them to win this game. So yeah, I think like that's the key here, is that slot corner star position, bringing more pressure, and staying in your game flow if you're Georgia.
Looking at it, I break it down. You talk about the middle 8 a lot, and winning that middle 8, which Georgia consistently did throughout the season. It wasn't quite the middle 8 in this game, but it certainly was the second and third quarters. The first quarter, Georgia's defense held Alabama to 33% success rate, 4.3 yards per play. And also in the fourth quarter, which, there was some garbage time, some run out the clock, but still, even then, they 25% success rate, 3.6 yards per play, and a negative EPA, both in the first and the fourth quarters. Now, the second and third, up 10 yards to play, 60% success rate, and just a massive EPA. So, yeah, that's where the game was lost. You talked about the scoring on 5 straight drives, and the game flow just was kind of out the window at that point. So, And you've documented, you've talked about those breakdowns and those coverages. So yeah, there's the things you can clean up. They weren't, again, Georgia was up 10-0. They did not, they had a game plan. They had some offense that worked. And whether it was, some players that weren't 100% on the D line, or, and certainly in the secondary, and playing guys like Dan Jackson, that's hopefully not going to be the case for the majority of the game, and that Georgia can improve on the defense. That's the thing that gave me the most encouragement, was that, yeah, we've seen this defense. We know that was an uncharacteristic performance out of the defense, and that can get cleaned up. If Georgia, if it had been trying to outscore teams all year, then, I'd be a little concerned about our offense. But even then, our offense put up a ton of yards, and they just didn't convert, and they made some mistakes. So those can get cleaned up, and there's no reason why this shouldn't be a great game. And hopefully, God willing, a Georgia win.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. There is, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if this wasn't Alabama, I think we would all be talking about this game a lot differently than we are, right? Like, I mean, I think that's just the truth. Like, I think this whole Alabama Nick Saban thing is so in the heads of a lot of Georgia fans that it's just, maybe it doesn't get viewed rationally, or, it, like, there's the football side of things, and you factor all that in there, and then there becomes this like other, kind of bugaboo thing that you also factor into these games when you talk about them. And I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to look at this. Like, I think it'd be foolish for us to try and like project or predict the mental state of 100 and something dudes on a football field. So yeah, that's my,
I guarantee their mental state's better than ours.
well, I mean, I think that Georgia has a huge edge from a psychological motivation, the rematch angle. I mean, I think that like, it's a lot harder to get motivated to beat the same team twice and it's a lot harder to convince yourself that, you've got this big thing to prove and all that. So
I think there's motivation, and I think that
I mean, it's a national championship game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's how to now which team can harness it and make it an asset as opposed to a detriment, that's what coaches got to figure out. That's why they get paid, a ton of money to do. Interesting thing that I don't know if you checked out, but Pete Thamel on Yahoo and on both, he wrote an article, and on the podcast he does with Wetzel, talked about, he interviewed a bunch of coordinators throughout the SEC, and he talked about in the SEC championship that some of these blitzes and pressures were coming and were tipped off, and that Bryce Young had he was coached up and knew how to know where they were coming from and where to go with the ball. And if Georgia can clean those up and not tip their hand up, he expects that the pressure that we've seen all season to come back against this game and possibly and hopefully confuse Bryce Young and not make some of these decisions and some of these things he's got to do in the face of that pressure, make it a little harder and hopefully less successful. So that's an interesting.
What was Thamel's prediction on the game? Did
he took Georgia. He took Georgia. I think it was a 30-24 kind of game. I think he had a 24-21 is what he had, or 23-20. It was a close game, right on the number, but he had the under and Georgia win.
Nice. So yeah, let's kind of get into some more recent tape. There's some things that I think Georgia fixed on offense and defense against Michigan that were relevant to the first game against Bama. And I think if they can continue what they did in the Orange Bowl, it'll go a long way towards them hopefully winning this game.
All right. So here we got some Orange Bowl.
So yeah, Stetson Bennett, if you're in a situation where the pocket breaks down, you just go run, man. Go get what you can get. If you can do that in the open field, then you need to be taking off and running whenever your offensive line loses protection in a spot. You just go for it and go be athletic and go do your thing. I think that's pretty straightforward and simple. We saw him with the 20-yard run when Aiden Hutchinson came clean, unblocked. We saw him make a lot of plays where he got the ball out quick and kept Michigan from getting pressure. And I think that's a big part of this game is like if Georgia stays in their game plan and doesn't act like it's 5 minutes left and they're down 14 and they're only running deep routes, then he'll have those throws to get the ball out early. We talked in the pregame about Georgia being able to use their speed and get on the outside against the inside linebackers of Michigan and beating them to the edge. We said all these same things when we talked about Georgia Alabama 1. Toto and Harris are good linebackers, but they're not very good in coverage. They haven't been good in coverage all year. They're probably a little bit faster laterally than the Michigan linebackers, but there still should be matchups for Kenny McIntosh and James Cook to, do some things like this and for Georgia to get out and block and create some easy first downs and easy kind of long lateral throws that are an extension of the running game. So I look for that. I think that this worked so well for Georgia, 84 yards on 11 throws behind the line of scrimmage for 7 point something yards an attempt. Like that, I think should continue to be part of your game plan because the one truth about these two teams is when they face each other, both of them always have to throw more than they normally do because they're both built to stop the run. So if you're going to have to throw more, then do it in a non-dangerous way. Do it in a way where, you're not asking Stetson to throw into the teeth of the defense 35 times. Do it in a way where you're basically having long handoffs. And I think that, Will Anderson will be out there somewhere. Georgia did a decent enough job against him last time. Oh yeah, are these those first downs?
Yeah. But keep talking.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that like a big part of the Will Anderson story is having success on first down, not putting yourself in situations where it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, and everyone in the stadium knows that you're about to pass, and he's able to just pin his ears back. Because I think a good way to wear him down is to throw behind him like Georgia did with Hutchinson and Ojabo in that Michigan game and make him pursue downfield and make him think twice about just trying to get upfield as quickly as he can at the snap. That's a list of Georgia's first down plays in the first half. Like they were tremendously good on those first 2 drives. They were really tremendously good throughout most of the first half. And that was the ball game.
Yeah, 35, 7, 9, 7, 9, 18, 27, 20, and even 6, 12. These are huge plays, and like you said, took the pressure off of what you got to do on third down. I mean, that's what success rate is. It's like, you have 50% of the yards to gain on first down. That's, what do you want to call it? Keeping the offense on schedule, staying ahead of the sticks, whatever it is. That's what an efficient offense has to do. And certainly in every game except the Georgia, and even for a good portion of the Alabama game, Georgia was very successful on first downs. I mean, and third downs weren't great when they had to pass the ball all season long. So Monken knows that. He's not, they gotta find a way to get the playmakers the ball in space and get yards on first down.
Yeah, and I think if you're Georgia, do you want to be in 3rd and long? No, you don't. But they were 3 of 12 on third downs in that last game. It's hard for me to imagine them having a worse performance than that on third down. You know what I mean? Like some of the variant stuff that you talked about before the Orange Bowl, right? Of Michigan's quarterback being surprisingly good under pressure, and we got some something going on here, man.
Hang on a second. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you talked about Cade McNamara being really good under pressure and Stetson Bennett being really bad under pressure. You go back and look at what happened in that game. Stetson Bennett came a little bit up towards mediocre and McNamara came back down towards earth. And I think that the same probably applies for 3 of 12 on third down. I think that, Georgia, it's hard for me to think of them being in as many 3rd and longs in a game where they're not behind, where they don't give up scores on 5 straight possessions. It's hard for me to feel like they're going to call the types of plays on 1st and 2nd down that will put them in 3rd and very, very long. But yeah, I mean, even if they do, I think you could expect to see more like a 6 of 12 performance than a 3 of 12 performance. Is that fair in your mind?
Oh, absolutely. And they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna go 8 of 10 or 8 of or 10 of 15 on third downs. But even if they're manageable, that just opens up the playbook, and you're not behind the sticks. And I think Georgia's gonna play to those strengths. And I don't think they're gonna try to do anything that's not going to work. They're not going to throw down, long passes downfield, just trying to get a guy isolated and make Stetson put it on a dime. They're going to get their balls, like you say, behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, check downs, and just take what the defense is giving them. I think Alabama's defense probably played one of its best games of the year as well. And I mean, let me see, we're talking about the Georgia offense. Let me see if I can pull up one of these stats here. Defensive let's see here, scoring. Georgia, had plenty of successful plays, over 30 here. Let me see here, a game, and and they allowed 20 to 25, and they allowed 30. 7.7 yards per play. Again, on the flip side of that, I mean, Georgia's defense can limit those successful plays, limit the explosives like they did all year long. I mean, look at this. This game just jumps out at you. And that Michigan offense was good. That Kentucky offense was good. That Auburn, I mean, not the Auburn as much, but Arkansas was good. And it goes to show you that on the inside. I mean, we just talked about it. They played their worst game of the year, certainly on defense. I don't know if they played their worst game of the year on offense, but they made their biggest mistakes, and I think those are easier to clean up. Especially on that rollout where Stetson threw it, and he could have gotten those yards. I mean, that's stuff that you can clean up, and I just don't think that we got beat. We, as much as Bama played, as well as Alabama played, we beat ourselves in a lot of facets of that game.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that, I look at it like Georgia scored 24 points in that game despite being horrible in the red zone, despite, really struggling with third downs, despite 2 turnovers. Call me crazy here, but like it does feel like there is a scenario, like there is a game out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen on Monday night, but like there is a game where Georgia could go out and score 38-42 on Alabama. Like just looking at how they moved the ball the first time around, is that crazy to think in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I mean, anything's possible. I think it's more likely that Georgia allows 17 or less. I mean, which is
I agree with that too. I agree.
Yeah,
I
mean,
I think that's where you're more likely to see the.
This is the stat I was looking for, was the Georgia scoring efficiency allowed all year long, and they were allowing half a point on the scoreboard. These are actual points. These are not theoretical points. These are points on the scoreboard per successful play. They allowed 33 successful plays against Alabama for 34 points. I took out that pick six. So
Sure.
to put it, so I mean that's defensive scoring efficiency was doubled in that game. So even if they cut that in half and add I had estimated they're going to be between 0.65 and 7 points, something like that per successful play. And without the big play and you make them drive in that second half, in that third quarter, that's totally reasonable to think that they can bring that back down and Georgia can go. And they allowed, giving up those 2 interceptions, or that 1 interception in the red zone, that Georgia's offensive scoring efficiency is going to go up too. So I don't think 42 would be a monumental thing. I think that's going to take a pick six, to be honest. I just don't think that the offense that they're going to go out there is going to be one that's going to try to score that many points.
That's probably true. I mean, I don't know. I think if you're Georgia, do you try to limit possessions in this game and try to like run long, or do you go back and look at your performance in the Cotton Bowl in the first half and realize that like you looked way better running tempo and be, not necessarily trying to have drives where you score from far away, but trying to have drives where once you get that first down and you have that defense off balance, you stay on the accelerator and keep them scrambling around and really kind of try to wear them out, and you're not subbing a lot and you're just trying to like roll down the field, even if it's with these little short screen passes, 5-6 yard chunks. All of a sudden you may have run an 8 or 9 or 10 play drive for a touchdown, but you've only taken, 2.5 or 3 minutes off the clock in a lot of cases because just, you're getting first downs and the clock stopping and all that. And like, I think that Georgia needs to be more focused on scoring points than they do shortening the game or lengthening the game. I think if they can go out there and score points, like the more possessions there are in this game, the more likely you are to see your defense win, over time. I think like the more possessions your defense is on the field, the higher chance there is of them creating a turnover or them, winning more of those battles than they lose. So I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what this will look like. Like I truthfully think it's more likely to see Georgia play this game a little more like, I don't know, conservatively is probably not the right word, but like a little bit more of, let's not try to expose our defense or, let's not have our defense coming back on the field quick after 3 and outs and stuff like that. But we'll see.
Yeah,
There's only so much control you have over that too.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about the defense a little bit. You want to get into some of these plays from the Orange Bowl?
Yeah. So Georgia got way better over the break at defending outside screens and swings. You see that there. Like, this is night and day from the one-on-one battles that Georgia was losing back in the Tennessee game, and kind of it was a problem throughout the last month of the season. These guys were just getting upfield as soon as they saw some sort of screen action, and by those DBs getting upfield quick, those linebackers were able to like fill in behind them. I think that the defense on the whole just played faster against Michigan. You saw way better run fits than you had in the last few weeks of the season. Like guys scraping into the hole a little bit better, just more lateral quickness. And that's not a Big Ten versus SEC thing. Like Michigan had very good running backs. I don't think that there's a huge difference between Brian Robinson and Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. Both those guys were, 1,000+ yard rushers this season. I think that if you can go run this one back one more time, this is the exact same bunch set that Bama killed Georgia on over and over in the SEC title game. And like, you see them defend this. You see a little bit different assignment there. You see the guy that's closer to the line of scrimmage, instead of trying to take the first guy, he lets those first 2 wide receivers run past him, and then he picks up the offset receiver, the receiver that's a little bit off the line of scrimmage there. So something to watch, because I mean, even going like you go through Alabama tape, even in the Cincinnati game, it's the case when everything was working. Like when they need a play, this is what they're running, and nobody's done a very good job defending it this season, and Georgia will have to do a better job defending it to get the result that they want in this football game. This was different as well. UGA in this game, when it played zone, actually brought some rushers. You're going to see Tyndall get upfield on the blitz, and McNamara finds that empty space behind him. But still, like, that's way better than playing zone on the back end and bringing 3. If you're going to play zone on the back end and try and play it safe and a long yardage down, I'm fine with that, but don't leave that zone in a situation where it has to cover for 6 seconds, force the issue. And if you it wouldn't surprise me if Georgia plays a lot of that in this game, because I think if you're Georgia, you want to play Alabama in the red zone. You're fine with giving up some yards and then saying, okay, we're inside the 20. Jameson doesn't have the speed advantage that he does everywhere else on the field down here, and let's go. This play, just across the board all night in the Orange Bowl, you saw Georgia put hands on receivers at the line of scrimmage. There's a couple times they didn't, one of them being the long pass that Kendrick gave up in the first half. But for the most part, they did, and I think like that's a huge part of this game is Georgia not letting these guys come off the lines clean. And you saw Cincinnati do that to Jameson Williams, and he didn't look comfortable. Like, he does not. He's a fast receiver. He's twitchy as hell. He's athletic, but he is not super physical as a wide receiver. And he's not Calvin Johnson. Like, if you jam him at the line of scrimmage, it will mess up the timing of that passing game. And with the pressure that Georgia can bring, that's the difference in a sack and a touchdown in some cases. The other thing that was way better in this game was the player Robert Beal and the play off that edge in general. He was getting washed out sometimes in the run game against Bama. That's him at the bottom of the screen there, standing up, number 33. And, he's squeezing down and pinching into that hole, even while taking on blockers. And right here, you see him. He's on the top side of the line of scrimmage, and he's gonna work upfield and come through and then cut off that block and make a sack. Like, he struggled in game 1 against Alabama. And there was times he really didn't look healthy, man. Like, just when Bryce Young was breaking contain, like, he wasn't moving very well. And just, I don't know. I don't know what the story was there, if it was just an off night or if there's something else going on. But he looked really good against Michigan. And, there will be other guys lining up on that edge like we've talked about on the show a lot. You'll see Quay Walker there. You're going to see maybe some Tyndall on the edge as well. Like, Georgia's going to have some new blitz packages for this game. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you they've been installed over the last 4 weeks. I can guarantee you that Georgia was planning on playing Alabama again the entire time they were on that layoff, and that coaching staff was doing things to get them ready for that game and putting in some packages. And there's still some meat left on the bone in terms of, defensive schemes and blitz packages. And I think you're going to see those on Monday. And I think, like you made the point earlier, if Georgia can, do a better job of not tipping those off, that's a huge key to them having success and keeping Bryce uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that was encouraging to hear from, and those are the most interesting part about that Thamel Pete, the little nugget there they gave us was that, those were DCs in the conference that were watching that game and had given them those. So that's just not some Yahoo like me or Thamel talking about it. That's
or me.
Yeah. You're a Yahoo with a lot of followers, but no.
Hey, man,
that's awesome. No, you're having a good year. So let's finish this off.
Yeah. For sure, man.
Do you want to get into the Cotton Bowl?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do that.
So just, some things we pulled here. Cincinnati kept tight spies in this game. Georgia's spies were not tight. They were either too tight or they were too loose. But Cincinnati, if you flush Bryce, then you'd be pursuing him upfield instead of a crossfield. I don't think this is the right play, but that's okay. Or maybe I labeled the wrong play. It's all good.
All right.
Yeah, so Bama runs these bunches, right? And we were just talking about this a minute ago. And Cincinnati, like a lot of teams have, they got confused on them and they let Alabama abuse them. You see pre-snap, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. That first guy, you see how that first guy at the line of scrimmage there, he follows the first Alabama receiver that's up.
Yep.
And then the play before, we were looking at from the Orange Bowl, you saw the Georgia defender who was up at the line let those guys go and take that receiver that was lagging around a little bit. So, I mean, there Cincinnati gets too concerned with Jamison Williams and they leave an easy touchdown underneath. So I expect with Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart and all the secondary geniuses that are on that Georgia staff, there's going to be a plan for these bunch sets. That I can promise you. Does it work? Hell if I know. But there will be a plan, and it'll be better than what happened last time. Right here, Kool-Aid McKinstry, young freshman DB, top of your screen. This is a missed throw by what's-his-face, Desmond Ridder. But still, Georgia is going to have opportunities to take advantage of these corners. They are banged up. Josh Jobe is hurt. Jalen Armour-Davis is hurt. They're playing true freshmen. And I think that they can do some things here. And I think that, Alabama is going to be in more let's not give up the big play mode than they are necessarily let's challenge 7-yard comeback routes. Continue with the RPO game like you did against Michigan, but layer on some more variations to it and some more actions. This is a nice little deal that Cincy runs here, just a nice, easy little kind of fake, get Ritter moving around. Like Stetson Bennett can do stuff like that. So take advantage of his legs, get him in the ball on the perimeter and create easy angles for yourself. Put Alabama's defenders into conflict. If you can freeze them for a half second for a James Cook or a Kenny McIntosh, then you've got an opportunity for them to go make a big play. That's all they need is to get past the line of scrimmage with the ball in their hands and clean space. Then come to the other side of the field. You're going to see Jalen Armour-Davis down here on the bottom, the other corner. He's been having hip problems. He's not very healthy. I don't know if he's going to play in this game or not, but if he is, make him prove he can tackle because, like, this is, you see him not really breaking down well there, getting juked off by this receiver. Georgia's got a lot of, like, a Lad McConkey, let him get in space with Armour-Davis and see what happens because he may bust one on him if he's not healthy. Get into heavy sets like this and pound Bama with the run until they come up. And then once they do, take advantage of those young corners. That was a batted ball, but watch the top of the screen here. This wide receiver, you're going to see them, he gets an easy inside release on Kool-Aid there at the snap. And that's easy pickings for a touchdown right there. Alabama did a really good job in this game of batting balls down, and that's something you should be worried about if you're a Georgia fan because that's kind of an offensive line thing. But like Bama's guys were not engaging with the offensive line and not rushing upfield at times to try and get their hands up. I think that Georgia can do a lot to Young if they can stick in man on the outside and affect the pocket. Here you're going to see 4-man rush, but this isn't a sack, but it's enough to make him uncomfortable. And if you make him feel like there's guys in his face, it is relevant to mention he's 6 feet tall. He's not a 6'4", like statue kind of quarterback, which is a good thing. He can move around, but he also doesn't have that height. Like he's not going to see lanes as well if the offensive line's back is coming towards them. Here you got to blitz. You got to do some exotic things. We were just talking about it, but Evan O'Neal, the Alabama left tackle, he is a stud. So what does Cincinnati do here? They just don't try to rush at him. They just leave him standing there by himself and they overload the other side and they get Bryce Young, boom, off his spot right there. So that's interesting. Here again, just pressure, man. And hit him, make him uncomfortable. You saw Quay Walker tee up that 5-star true freshman quarterback for Michigan a couple times. Like if you're Georgia and he gets past the line of scrimmage and he wants to tuck and run against you, like you make him pay for it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like don't, do everything within the rules, but like if you can get to him and hit him and, just keep him from being comfortable, this is a different game. Yeah, and then last but not least, unleash the Stet bomb, dude. Let him run. Let him get out and be athletic. He doesn't have to run for 70-yard touchdowns, but let him get out and do some things with his legs. Let him be a real threat in the zone read game. Make sure Will Anderson is not able to just collapse off that backside and add another guy into the box in the run game. Make sure you're freezing those Bama ends and keeping them on the edge there and giving your backs a chance to hit the hole with your offensive line having the numbers that you want them to. So that's what I got, man. Like that's kind of I think there's some things we saw Georgia do better against Michigan. There's things we saw Georgia do well against Alabama. There's some crumbs that Cincinnati left for Georgia that I think they can pick up on and use. And I think somewhere when you combine all those things, there's a game plan that you like if you're Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, and Georgia's had limited the explosive plays, and Alabama was more explosive, but they weren't as explosive as they were as under Mac Jones. And let me see here. Yeah, and you can see that again. They were around 1.0 points per successful play on offense. Overall the season they're 1.2 against the Georgia team in the SEC championship. They were 1.0, but down Cincinnati they went 0.7. Look at the LSU 0.7 against LSU, and also against Auburn 0.8. Those were teams that got pressure on him. Now, I'm not sure the Cincinnati game plan would be the same if they weren't up that many points, but they did. That you just saw on on the tape you just showed us that getting pressure on him will limit those plays when he's on the move and having to throw on the move and under pressure, hands in his face. He's not going to be able to throw those passes downfield. He's going to find somebody possibly or may run, but hit him, get him on the ground, and Georgia has a blueprint for that in 3 or 4 games this year, and just limit those explosive plays. At A&M, they had 38 successful plays against A&M, but again, 1.0 points per successful, which is that was a high scoring game, but again they weren't. They were. I'm not gonna say they contained him, but that's like what you got to do. You got to limit those explosive plays and get pressure on him, and make sure those when they get yards that they're underneath, and even you get up first downs, just don't give up the 40-yard plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this in the Michigan game, like in the pregame for the Orange Bowl, was Michigan scores from far away, and they kind of need to score from far away to be successful. And if you can make a tackle when they have an explosive play, that's probably the difference between 3 and 7. And you saw that come into play a couple times, right? They had 3 trips to the red zone and they got 10 points out of it. No, 4 trips to the red zone and they got 10 points out of it. Like, I think that's a big deal if you're Georgia in this game. Because Alabama's, especially if you're doing more things and playing more cover 1 and cover 0, where you're bringing 5, 6 guys and trying to blitz and get Bryce Young off his spot, you also leave yourself more susceptible to giving up the big play. But kind of do the wins outweigh the losses there? I think if you're Georgia, they certainly do. For sure you can't sit there and rush 3 and drop 8 and let him just pick you apart. That is a certainty. So don't do it. Yeah. And one other note that I had written down here is like, I think Alabama was a different team in the passing game without John Mechie. I want to be clear, Brian Robinson ran for 200 yards against Cincinnati. Like, Alabama did what they did against Cincinnati because it's like, why go test the corners that are really good from Cincinnati when you can just win with your offensive line and, not have to take any risks? So they did. But they had a 34% success rate in the passing game against Cincy, man. Like, that's not blowing anything away. They were 72% on the ground, but 34% in the pass game. So it's like, I think that the problem for Georgia last time was you had these 2 pieces on the field, and Mechie and Williams, and Alabama's moving them around, and all of a sudden, you're William Poole or whoever, the corner that you're worried about, he's matched up with those guys twice as much when you have 2 game-breaking wide receivers, and when you don't, like, I think that William Poole can hang out and cover Latu a lot. Do I want him covering Jameson Williams one-on-one all day? No, I don't, but he's not going to have to. So, yeah, I think that Georgia will have a plan, and I think they'll do a pretty good job at executing it.
Yeah, it was interesting though. I was digging in some of the PFF stuff, and you had so many plays, and you had such a good rundown. We didn't really get into it because, just I thought what you had was more interesting. But I was looking to see like his time to throw, and he actually in the games where he struggles, or the games that the LSU and Alabama games. I'm sorry, the LSU and the Auburn games actually had more time to throw. It was like he was averaging 3 seconds to throw, but that tells me that he's probably on the move a lot more. And maybe getting rid of those balls, and Georgia just got some pressure, but he found his outlet pretty quick. So I think getting pressure on him and putting him off. I mean, that's just getting him off his spot, and he's having to scramble on those games. So time to throw, not necessarily a stat, but it was interesting that and then he also had like 2.8 seconds to throw in the Cotton Bowl, which tells me again they were moving. He had to move around and did not sit back and find his hot read or his second and go through his progressions like he maybe did in the SEC championship game. So I'm certainly hoping that, again, I mean, it's talked about throughout all of Twitter and all of the blogospheres, and all the coverage is like putting pressure, getting home, and doing what Georgia did all year long. And I think it's probably 50-50. People expect to see Georgia's defense do that better. And that's obviously, I think, the biggest key, in my opinion. If I imagine it's got to be one of your top 2 or 3 keys to the game as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. 100%. I mean, I think the other thing that we would be remiss to not mention is the Alabama injury situation, man.
Yeah,
I think it's a very big deal. The offensive
update us.
line.
Yeah, please update us.
I don't have any new information that anyone else doesn't, but Emil Ekiyor and the right tackle Chris Owens both left the Cotton Bowl with injuries. They're both listed as questionable. Neither of them returned to the game. Alabama, struggled on the offensive line mightily throughout certain parts of the year, and then they made some personnel changes prior to the SEC championship game, and all of a sudden they're not giving up any sacks to Georgia. So, like, if 40% of your offensive line is changing for this rematch, that's a huge deal. That's a massive, massive deal. And I think that, even if there's no changes, like, Georgia's going to be more productive in terms of creating pressure than they were the first time around. So, yeah, but if there are changes, it's like this could be, not maybe on the scale of like a Georgia Clemson game, but like this could be a type of situation where Georgia's creating havoc early, and then Bryce Young starts kind of, feeling ghost a little bit, and it just starts throwing off, everything that Bama wants to do. So, yeah.
You got a score prediction?
Do you have a score prediction?
I do. I was going to try to make it. That's what I was doing. I was trying to make a graphic. I'm just going to give it out here. Maybe I'll tweet it out later because I got to check my math on it. And I wrote some of the stats have been showing up. And let me get no one wants to see that stat anymore. I wrote on Dog Sports this week, kind of broke down some of these like scoring per successful plays and all that sort of stuff. So if you want to go back and scroll way down, because it came out a couple of days ago, because Dog Sports has been putting out stuff all week long, but it's there still. But check it out, and you can see these stats and look at them and sort of get the explanation behind them a little more. All that to say, I think Georgia's going to have more successful plays on offense than Alabama. I'm thinking somewhere in the 30 to 32 for Georgia, and somewhere in the 20 to 26 for Alabama. I think Georgia's going to limit the explosives and make them run more plays for those points. All that to say, my math comes out 28-23.
Nice.
28-23 Georgia. We
love to see it.
Yeah, I think so. That's predicated on not turning the ball over in the red zone, not throwing pick sixes, and not giving up 50-yard plays. So, which is all the things we talked about they're going to clean up. So if I believe that the coaching staff and Kirby Smart and Monken and Lanning and company will clean those up, that's reasonable to expect. And that's why the number is what it is, because Georgia actually is statistically better. And outside of the quarterback position, lines up, if not favorably, and Georgia's, like Will Anderson's probably the best player in the field. But outside of that, Georgia's got a lot more players, and they've just got to make the sum greater than the whole of Alabama.
Yeah, for sure. So, a couple things. Like, I've struggled with this matchup. Off the heels of the Michigan game, I felt really good about Georgia's chances in this game. And then, I sat and watched all this tape on Georgia and Alabama the first time around, and it's really hard to know that a game has happened, right? And sit there and be like, this, we've seen this before, and ignore that result, or, not ignore it, but not be like overly biased by it in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of where like my head has been at the last few days. But a couple things I want to share. So top 5 teams have faced off twice in the same season, 5 times in college football history, Josh. This is good stuff. So 1959, LSU and Ole Miss. LSU won the regular season game 7-3. I believe that was Billy Cannon's run in the mud on Halloween night. Ole Miss won 21-0 in the Sugar Bowl. 1996, Florida State and Florida. FSU beats Florida 24-21, last game of the season. Florida wins 52-20 in the Sugar Bowl for a national championship. LSU Alabama 2011. Tigers win 9-6 in overtime. Game that I love that you think is trash, but we won't get into that right now.
No.
Alabama wins 21-0 in the rematch. Notre Dame Clemson, just a year ago. Notre Dame wins 47-40 in South Bend. Granted, without Trevor Lawrence, but offense wasn't really the problem for Clemson in that game, was it? Notre Dame wins 47-40. Clemson wins 34-10 in the rematch in the ACC championship game. And then this year you got Alabama. They beat Georgia 41-24. And granted, that's that margin is a lot bigger than those other games we're talking about there. So it is.
Professor Dog Out West, is some of this going to be on the quiz?
No, but I'm just saying, I think that bodes well. And I've thought about this hard this week, and it kind of struck me, in the last hour or so before this show, like this is the same way that I felt about 2017 Auburn, Georgia, right? Was like Georgia had been the better team, except for the day they went and played Auburn, and Auburn beat them 40-17. They beat them bad, and it looked really bad. And it was one of those things where it was like going into that game, you just couldn't get over that first result and take it out of your mind.
And I would remind you that Auburn was much healthier in the first game than they are in the second game.
Right, which is also another theme. And Georgia is also much healthier this time around than they were the first game. And then you go to, the week of that game, and Georgia is they close as a 1.5-point favorite in that game for the SEC championship game in 2017. And that's what I can't get over, man. Is just like, dude, Vegas is much better at this than all of us. They see this as a mid-50s over
50,
under in this game.
51.5.
52.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 51.5. Like, so they think that this is a Georgia type of game, right? Like this is a lower scoring type of game. So I'm going Georgia. Oh God, dude.
I'm literally about to type this up, make a graphic. No pressure.
Jesus Christ. Georgia 30. Oh my God, it's trolled so hard, dude. All right. 35 to. I'm going 35-17, Georgia.
Nice.
I'm just going for it, dude. I don't know why. Don't ask me if it makes any sense, because it doesn't from what we've seen. But maybe 35-24 or something like that. I don't know. I think Georgia wins this game, though. Like, I don't like Georgia in a close game against Alabama. So I feel like if they're going to win this game, then they're just going to win it. And I feel like that minus 2.5 point spread is just a red herring. It is. Oh, fuck you. Sorry. Apologies if anyone is listening with children or anything like that.
But I mean, I like the graphics. Come on. I just cranked that out.
Pretty man. They're throwing me out here on Front Street. No, but seriously, man, that's how I look at it. It's like I think that if Georgia wins this game, then everything goes right and everything goes kind of opposite world of last time around, and they just dominate in a pretty real way. And I think that that's sort of what history says. Like, the only way that Georgia should be favored in this game is by, I don't know. I just think that if Georgia's favored in this game, somebody knows something that nobody else does. And generally, when you look at games like this where a team is favored by a few points and it makes no sense, and a lot of people are picking the underdog, you see a wide margin. Like sometimes I bet lines on college basketball games like this where an unranked team that's 500 is like a couple point underdog to a top 10 team that's only lost 2 games on the year, and I go ahead and hit the money line on the underdog because somebody knows some shit that I don't know, and I think somebody knows some shit that we don't know. That's my take.
I think, obviously we're Dog Sports Live. If you expected us to predict Alabama to win, you've just come back to the wrong place. And I'll borrow my favorite thing that Locked On Bulldogs does is Alabama fan. If you're in the comments, come at us. We can take it. We've done this plenty of times before.
Yeah, dude. I've done this 7 times before. You think I give a shit? Come on, dude.
Exactly.
You can't kill me.
Right.
No, but truthfully, Josh, I truthfully went to bed last night thinking about picking Alabama in this game, and then I looked at this morning and just I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just trying to not be depressed on my way to Indianapolis tomorrow. Totally.
Would it surprise us? No, it wouldn't surprise us. These are the 2 best teams, and it's which was interesting talking about the numbers. I think both. I think Alabama was plus the points is minus 108, and Georgia Alabama plus the points is minus 108, and Georgia minus points is 111 or something, minus 111. So it tells you, it's a coin flip game, and it's interesting. It's hanging on that key number 3, and I think if it moves to 3.5 or 2.5, that's going to be all you can expect it to move with any late money. In any of that late, I think the sharp money's in. I don't think that COVID, sometimes the sharp money's been coming in late because of the COVID stuff, but I think this is a different game, and I do think a lot of the sharp money is already in, and I think it was and you leaning towards Georgia on that. I think there's a majority of the bets were on Alabama, but I think a lot of the total money was on Georgia to cover. So read a lot of tea leaves, trying to find.
I don't know, man. Going back to looking at some past, CFP games. LSU was a 4.5 point favorite over Clemson in 2019 and won that game by 20 points. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you can't. Those games don't matter. It's interesting to look at them, but winding this thing up. Georgia's got they've got the team. They don't have to do anything they aren't built to do. I felt in 2017 they had to play a great game. They had to do all the things that they did for 3.5 quarters, and until they gave up and tied it. And obviously what happened in 8 and even in 2018 in the SEC championship game, they had positions of weakness, and they played Alabama hard. This year is we've got the players to match up. And they've just got to execute and play better than they did the first time around. And that's what's good about this college football playoff, is that I'm not sure we would have gotten a rematch had Alabama if we didn't have 4 teams. I'm not sure Georgia's sitting in this position for the BCS. They probably would have played in the Sugar Bowl. So and Alabama certainly wouldn't have gotten the chance in 2017 without the 14 playoff. So take advantage of it. Let's get it done before this thing expands to 12 or 16 or 24, whatever it's going to do, or whatever they're going to do. The time is now, and we've been rattling on for 58 minutes. But Graham, dude, is awesome tape again, man. You just went through 3 games, the SEC championship, the Cotton Bowl, and the Orange Bowl. I'm going to make these links that you and I have live, so if anybody wants to scrub through some of those plays and jump in to discussion at some point, feel free. We're putting out a lot of stuff on our YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed, if you're watching this on Twitter, please jump over to YouTube and subscribe. And again, this will be available on the wherever you get your podcast and on audio form. So if you're riding up to the game, riding around in Indianapolis, trying to stay warm, check us out on any of those things. Please subscribe, and share. Graham, I've been scrolling on the feed on the show the whole time, but you are going to be live on 680 The Fan from their remote in Indianapolis. I know you're
at Hooters, baby, downtown Hooters.
At Hooters, that's the R-rated version of Steak and Shake. So with Indianapolis,
it's the R-rated version of Zaxby's.
You're not gonna find a Zaxby's in Indianapolis. You're gonna find lots of Steak and Shakes, but
I might find Rig off though. We'll see.
Yeah, so we're gonna tweet that out a bunch, and we'll stream there, and I'm sure you're gonna pop up in other places. Anything else you want to tell people to look out for you, because you will be at the press conference tomorrow or Sunday? Sunday's the press conference.
Sunday morning, depending on how, I don't know, maybe we'll see how everything plays out. But yeah, I'll be at the Hooters in Indy on Monday from 6 to 7. 680 The Fan will be there all day from 2 to 7. I actually saw some pictures of some of the stuff they're giving away. There's some signed Georgia jerseys and some cool stuff, and they'll have giveaways, and obviously there will be food and drinks and all that good stuff. So come hang out. You know, that'll be a large contingent of Georgia folks. So if you're a Bulldog that's up in Indy for the game and want some like-minded company, come check us out. It'll be fun.
All right, my brother.
Shout out to Brian Hoyt for having me on his show.
Absolutely. Follow Graham at Dog Out West. I am.
Follow Josh at dog_stats.
Please check out our stuff on dogsports.com, and hopefully we'll be back breaking this game down and talking about a national championship.
Dude, knock on wood. We'll see, man. Hopefully. Yeah, if we do, we'll just do like four shows of post-game breakdown on the national championship. You know, we'll just do like slow motion of every quarter. We'll milk freaking 12 hours of content out of this.
Easily 12 hours. And hopefully I'll have the hometown radio call on YouTube, a channel somewhere, maybe not this one, but I had a lot of fun and a lot of people are enjoying that. So anyway, with that, go Dogs. And there's a possibility we might pop up again on your feed, but if not, enjoy the game and go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Thanks, Josh.